Welcome everybody to the BSYC windsurfing rules session, and hopefully we can give you some insight into how to obey the rules better and miss people on the water in the future. Jason Coonan here is an expert on the rules, so we're looking forward to hearing from him. And I'm really good on basic rules, and I'm going to show you the basics of the rules, and then we can talk and ask questions and see if we can work out what's happening on the windsurfer course, and maybe you can give us some insight in what you need to know. Yeah? So, Jace, you're going to go first with part one. Away you go. Are you happy to hold that?
Thank you, Bretto. Are you happy to hold that?
Yep, no worries, mate.
So we're just going to start with part one. If you're following it in your rules book, it's page 11, fundamental rules. Okay, sorry. So part one, rule one, is about safety, and it's helping those in danger. And it's about if somebody's in danger, you don't run over them, you try to assist them, but you don't try to assist them at your peril, right? You have a responsibility to yourself and your crew. On a windsurfer, it's just yourself first. But if you can assist, and sometimes assisting is just dropping your sail and sitting next to them until the rescue boat comes, okay? Or potentially sailing to shore and notifying people that they're in need.
Jason, one question on that.
Yes.
Apparently in regattas you can actually ask for redress. If you've gone back to assist someone else and then you rejoin the race, you can actually ask for redress and they'll give you average points.
That is 100% correct, and if you are ever in that situation, you are required to offer assistance, you can seek that, and that is sort of dealt with by a similar format to a protest, which requires filling out a form and just talking about what you did and why you did it. Okay. Fair sailing. Fair sailing. This is the cornerstone to what we do, and it's about going out and behaving properly. It's about sailing within the rules, by the rules, and accepting the rules, and it underpins the whole sport because we don't require third-party governance. We self-regulate, and that the self-regulation is: have I made a mistake, or have you made a mistake? If I've made a mistake, I accept that I've made it, and I address the mistake as the rules allow for, which is accepting a penalty. In most circumstances, in some circumstances, it is actually required for you to retire from the race, and that's fair sailing.
Yeah, if you're deemed to have not done the right thing, the race committee can disqualify you from that race because you were deemed to have not met the requirements of rule number 2, fair sailing.
Acceptance of the rules is really just a blurt on fair sailing, and it just says that we accept the rules that we are sailing by, and we won't seek third-party adjudication outside of what sailing has already set up. And there's no need to talk really much more about that. And then we really move up. Yeah.
I think you might skip over.
Yeah. Did I?
I think you might have. Don't know where it comes.
I did. Yeah. Bretto's right. Decision to race. And this is something that every sailor and every competitor has to take seriously. It's a 35-knot sou'easter, right? And, you're not really great in 35 knots. Well, the sou'easter is not the day to go and test whether or not you can sail that. If it's a 35-knot sou'wester and all it's going to have, you're going to blow back onto the shore, go your hardest. In a 35-knot sou'easter, you're looking at, 35 miles across the Gulf, right? So, decision to race. Are you up for it? Is your equipment up for it? And I'm going to say if it's 35 knot sou'easter, I'm not going out. Why would anybody else?
So the race committee are covering their butts a little bit in saying, you know, you need to really think about whether you race or not. And if you go out there and get washed away and it takes 3 hours to get you rescued, well, they're trying to take some of the liability off them and say that you should have made the wise decision and not raced, because they can't judge everyone's sailing ability.
Spot on. So part 2 is when boats meet. This is about when we get near another person, another vessel on the race course, and these rules are designed to really keep us apart. The racing rules don't want people bumping into each other. So we start in section A, and the first part of section A is the right-of-way. And in the rules, the right-of-way is defined as a boat that's required to keep clear, or it's a boat that has priority. And I'll hand over to Brett now to explain a little bit about Rule 10, which is opposite tacks. So this is 2 boats that are coming together. One is on port, one is on starboard. There are only 2 tacks. One is port, one is starboard.
Correct. Okay, so when I go through the rules, I always start with my first rule, and I forget the number, is avoid collisions at all costs. And if you dial that down, if you're on port and Jace is on starboard and he's coming through, and if Jace is on starboard and the port boat goes through, he's still got to try to avoid the tack, the collision, I should say. So if the port boat's got it wrong, you don't ram him. You get as close as you can, and then you luff up and miss that boat and then hail. Penalty I had to avoid. You don't just ram them and go crazy, you know, I shouldn't have done that. So you have an obligation to avoid collisions at all costs, and we'll talk more about that towards the end of the rules. So we're going to go into Rule 10, which is port starboard. Who knows when they're on port tack and when they're on starboard tack? Put your hand up. Pratty, how do you know when you're on starboard tack? Yeah, yep. Anyone else? Diana, do you know when you're on starboard tack? Can you define it? Tim?
Right hand forward.
Right hand forward. So if your right hand is forward on the boom, you're on starboard tack. The wind is on your starboard side of the boat, and by definition, in sailing rules, it's when your boom is on the port side of the boat. Yeah? So why is that definition so? Why is it where the boom is, not where your hands are? Can anyone think? Yeah, so let's have a look at a boat going directly downwind and another boat going directly downwind. Okay, boom out there, boom out there. They're both going straight down to the bottom mark. Boom to port, starboard tack. Boom to starboard, port tack. Who's got right away? Starboard tack. So if these boats are converging, what should this guy do? Jibe onto starboard. And the next rule will come in and take over. Yeah. So that's why the rule is where your boom is. So a boat can be sailing directly downwind, slightly by the lee. So this boat here is sailing what we call by the lee, which means it's probably more appropriate for the boom to be over here, but they're sailing down trying to catch a few runners, and this boat is still on port tack. Yeah, so my boom's out there, I'm on port. Boom's out there, I'm on starboard. But when you're sailing upwind or on a reach, it's pretty straightforward. If your right hand's forward, you're on starboard. If your left hand's forward, you're on port. When does this mostly come into play? I need the wiper or some sort of rag.
I was looking for that before.
Yeah.
So,
we're going to rub out these top 3 boats, and we're going to go an upwind situation. Is this boat on port or starboard? Starboard. Booms on port, right hand forward, left hand to the back. Yeah? Starboard, everyone happy with that? What tack do you start a race on? Why don't we start on port? Because it's so busy, it's so crowded. If someone tries to start on port and there's one of you on port and everyone else is on starboard, you've just got to go behind everybody and crash and burn. So everyone starts on starboard. Thank you, Jason. So this going up the windward leg, starboard port. Who's got right away? Starboard has right over port. So when you come off the start line on starboard and stay on starboard, you've got right away. Anyone that goes low and tacks is going to have to give way. What can this boat do to give way? Got three options. You can go behind. You can tack. You can stop. Just let your boom out and just stop your boat and just wait. Oh, I like that one in the windsurfer actually. And then when they go, you just sheet on and go hard. I wouldn't leave it that late. If you're going to go behind, you make the decision early and bear away. Here you can tack at the last minute. If you're going to stop, you probably want to start stopping about there. Andrew. Okay, good question. If you tack at the last minute, it's traditionally known in old sailing rules and terminology, which I really love, it's called a lee bow. As long as you tack and fill your mainsail, as soon as you've filled your mainsail, this guy is going to have to avoid you because he then becomes an overtaking boat, which is 2 rules away. Yeah. As long as you get most of the way through your tack and you fill your mainsail, he might have to luff a little bit and come back down, and then you're going to end up in this situation and you've probably gassed him. That's a classic sailing manoeuvre and you'll see it all the time. That's called a lee bow. And there's only one situation where you can't do it, and I'll explain that in a minute. So you come in and go bang and you don't finish your tack and he has to avoid, you've infringed. This guy should say, penalty, I had to avoid. That's the best way to call a protest on someone. Penalty, I had to avoid.
So what we're talking about is...
Wipe it. You talk, I'll wipe. I'll wipe.
So what Bretto's describing is Rule 13. And it's called,
Maybe we'll use the boats.
wild tackling. Okay, so we're going to talk about... Oh, sorry, I haven't got the mic.
So we got... Yeah, go for it. So we got port, doesn't have right away. Starboard has right away.
Yep.
Converging.
So Rule 13 covers wild tacking. And what it's about whilst you are actually in the manoeuvre of tacking, so before you've acquired the tack, it's between port and starboard in this instance, which is what Brett's talking about. And what you're required to do is keep clear. So while you're actually tacking, and you all know from your experience windsurfing, it's a big, long, slow arc, right? It's not quick, you can't do it quickly, it's awkward, right? So if you're going to lee bow someone, you've got to make sure that you go from port, through the eye of the wind, into starboard, before you upset that boat. And Bretto...
Here we go. Starboard tack, port tack. Still on port tack, still on port tack, still on port tack, still on port tack, tacking. No rights. Fill my mainsail, I've got rights. It's really tight. You got to tack and fill your mainsail. As soon as you go past head to wind, you've got no rights until you fill your mainsail on the other tack. It's not a manoeuvre you want to try if you're a little bit shaky and the wind's a bit funny and the bumpy road, because you're probably going to fall in when you try and do it. Yeah. Now we'll come to start line.
Yeah,
we'll move on to that next. Yeah, because rules change before the start.
So what Brett's just mentioned is a move from Rule 11 to Rule 15 here. Rule 15 is acquiring right of way. So this guy here started here, came up, he's now acquired right of way.
Bang.
And the rule that underpins this, we'll talk about in a minute, because we actually have to go back in the rule book for that one. But he's acquired right of way. Once you acquire right of way, there are some limitations on what you can do. And the limitations on what you can do are basically that you have to give this guy here a room and opportunity to keep clear, okay? So just because you're a right-of-way boat doesn't mean you can go whammo and slam somebody. You can't just, no, you've room and opportunity. It's got to be fair. It goes back to the fundamental rules. And maybe
I've filled my mainsail, bang, no time.
Yeah.
Too close.
Yeah.
This guy has to have room to luff and sail on.
Yeah.
So, it's arbitrary. It's pretty hard to actually pinpoint, but we've got to self-adjudicate. If you take in there and you end up like that, you've done the wrong thing. If you take in there and you end up like that, that's all right. He can just luff a little bit and keep going. You've slowed him down. Awesome. You're going to win by sending him right. Andrew? Depending on the sailing instructions, if sailing instructions say nothing about penalties, it will be 360 turn.
Yep.
And in some sailing instructions, it will be a 720 turn.
And at what point, any time between, straight away, or can you do it 10 minutes later?
You need to do it as soon as you possibly can safely. So if you just sail over here and do your penalty, great. If you're just about to pass the windward mark, you could probably say, well, there's too many boats coming through. I'm going to sail around the windward mark and go high and do it over here. If you wait for 3 legs and then do it, you're cheating. Yeah?
Well, you're
Not often I use the word cheating, but Richard.
So does red say hold your course to green, or is that?
No, there's no calling there. The only calling we get in this situation is this boat calls starboard. Starboard. Because the worst thing you want is this guy hasn't seen this guy. So call starboard loud and clear. My best tactic when racing is to get within about 3 boat lengths and hope that they haven't seen you, and then you yell starboard as loudly as you can, and they go, oh wow, I didn't see them, and they try and tack quickly and they fall in. That's cheeky, I know. But I don't want to yell it too early because they might hear me. I've got to do it all again.
So just for my clarification, so in the digging class, if you cut it really fine and you hit the buoy, you have to do a 720.
360.
360.
360. Read your sailing instructions. This will come up again and again. Read the sailing instructions.
So in the Windsurfer class, you don't have to?
No, you hit the mark. You're allowed to hit the mark in windsurfing. Allowed to hit the mark. All right, so we're probably going to move on from port starboard because some of the stuff you're asking relates to further explanations. Anthea, last question.
If you don't call starboard,
No, don't have to call starboard. You do not have to. It's courtesy. Yeah.
However,
I think it's a good point to make, Jason. Brett.
Fair sailing.
You call it.
I suggest you call it.
you believe that you're going to make contact,
yeah.
right?
Then I went to Jelly and went,
No,
Yeah, but-
you believe you're going to make contact, call starboard,
Yeah.
call it loud, call it confidently, and make sure that they're acknowledging it. And don't just call it once, call it,
but if you
call
Yeah.
it, call it.
you still have to put the same
You still have you still are the
Rights and
give. Yeah.
obligations.
Yeah.
There's rights and
Oh, look,
obligations.
that's all comes down to fair sailing because, if you're calling starboard because the port boat doesn't see you, what if you don't see them? You've still got, no one has right of way. You are the stand-on vessel, they are the give-way vessel. Yeah. I don't want to go too much in port starboard. You got something set up there. I just want to top mark. No, I want to start line before we move on because I know I've seen some windsurfing starts and I've seen some barging. And is there anyone here that likes barging? I got 2 people in mind, but I'm not going to name them. Okay. Yeah, I know you do, Jason. Start line. Start line here. Boat. Pin down here. Wind coming from there, yeah? We're all getting stuck here. We're going like, this is great. This is great. We're all getting a good start. I'm second row. I'm going to get a bit of an average start. And then someone goes, I can do this. Bang, bang, bang. All right? You can't do that. You cannot. Hey? Because we haven't done a rules night yet. And they're probably not here. No, I'm joking. Why can't you do that at the start? Because it's called barging, but it's actually rule 11, I think. It's windward boat keeps clear, which is, we've just been talking about port starboard, which is boats on opposite tacks. Now we're talking about windward leeward, which is boats on the same tack, overlapped.
This is rule 11.
Boats on the same tack, overlapped?
Rule 11 on the same tack. Sorry. Yeah, rule 11 is on the same tack, overlapped.
Overlapped. Take a line across your transom. This boat is overlapped. This boat is not. This boat is not. This boat is not. These boats are all overlapped. But most important, when you're here, this boat is overlapped. If there's a gap there, he can take it. If you just pinch up here, he can't take it. He's going to hit the boat. So he has to go around. He cannot barge through that gap. Cannot barge through that gap. This is probably the most important rule and probably the main reason we're here tonight. You cannot take that gap. And why do you think Tim Lelliott on a start line does this?
Just sits there.
Tack, 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 tack. He's protecting that position because you cannot come in there. You cannot do it. And if someone does it, you say, windward boat, keep clear, no barging. Just yell it out and hold your ground. So that if they do hit you, they're very much in the wrong. Pratty.
If you're all stacked up and it's 20 seconds to go and the boat above you comes down on top of you and you have held your absolute perfect ground and his boom is rubbed all across your head and you're floating away.
Windward boat, keep clear.
So
Windward boat, keep clear.
This is rule 11.
should he shoot over the line because he's actually got nowhere to go?
Yes?
There's nuance to this rule here.
Here's two boats here. You're holding your ground and he's drifting. It's quite a common sailing occurrence. This guy has room and opportunity to keep clear. He might say there's a start boat there. You have room and opportunity to sail forward. You've pushed him over the line. Yes, he needs to keep clear.
What about this one?
Go forwards. Go forwards.
Just explain when you're racking and stacking at the start line. And
So in this situation, yeah. So what Brett actually said this before. There's nuance and there's layers to the rules, right? So
This is so windsurf.
and this is this is a classic thing, right? What's boat 3? What's boat 3 going to do? What's boat 1 going to do? And what's the red boat 3 going to do? So if red boat 3,
Who's in the wrong? Who's in the wrong?
yellow and green.
Green's in the wrong.
well,
Windward boat didn't keep clear. Yellow can say, I tried to keep clear, but there's another boat above me.
yeah. So Brett, where this falls down though, is he can't smack the start boat. Well, if he can, but on a start line on windsurf, you're all static.
This is where it all gets
And this is where it gets really complicated, right?
But I'll tell you now, if you had a teams racing judge at
Yep.
team sailing,
You'd be known.
and they saw that and someone
Yep.
raised a penalty, he would ping this boat here. He would ping this boat here.
Yeah.
Why? Because he has to ping someone. And that's the ultimate windward boat situation. So don't get there. Andrew.
Common windsurfing is that people go backwards,
Yes.
Yep.
which you don't see in dinghy racing.
Yeah, they do. They do. Don't go backwards. Don't go backwards. Do you know why don't go backwards on the start line? No rights. No rights. No rights.
But Bretto, there's a layer, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a layer. So there's a layer to not going backwards. There's a difference between drifting back in the tide and actively pushing your sails backwards, right? So these are the layers. So I could maybe sit there, sail up to the line, drift back from the line, and there'd be no perception from anybody as to whether I back my sail. Maybe it's just, you can be very, very subtle in it. So there's always layers. Underpinning all of this stuff is just try and sail clean, right?
Oh, absolutely.
The best thing you do is try and sail clean.
Best thing you do in a race is not hit anyone.
Yep.
Best teams racing where there's all sorts of stuff going on. The best team sailing race is when no one touches each other. Everyone's just avoiding perfectly. And the tactics win.
Rich?
So you can't luff people on the line, can you?
Yes, you can sail above head to wind before the start. That's another rule. So there's a bunch of rules that happen before the start, and we can talk about those. Timbo?
Start's a good place to be here.
Yep.
Okay, so we're on the start line. We're all three boats.
All racked up. Yep.
Someone comes down and just smacks you up.
Yep.
Three of you.
Yep.
Who has right away and what's the rules on that? Just to clarify that.
So,
We're all
yeah.
We're all in irons, we're all just sitting there, we're just sitting on the tie, just hanging around.
So before the start, there's no proper
Is
course.
this the one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they just stop.
Is that Malcolm Higgins?
Well, I didn't say names.
It'd be a dinghy sailor, someone that knows their rules. Before the start, you can laugh past
Head to win.
Head to win.
Pass head to win, yeah.
You can laugh as hard as you like. So if you're smart, you see everyone racked up and you see a gap there and you sneak in here and you luff these two boats and then on the start signal you bear away into this gap with speed. You have rights. If someone's wanting to come in here when you're on the start line, I suggest you hold your rope or your mast, let the boom hang out wide out here so they have to go further on and give yourself a gap. Yeah? Hang it out. Not after they've got there, because after they've got there, if you hang it out, it's going to trip over them and you're going to fall in. Hang it out before they get there, and they're going to go wide to get round it, and then you sheet on again and go. Hang it out for a sec, just when they're coming. Just when they're coming.
Elbows out.
I watched Dave Higgins on the start line, and I've tried to go behind him on a Sharpie, and he's pulled the tiller, and he's gone down hard and went, nah, get out of there. Hung his boom out really wide, and then I went around his boom, and then he sheeted on and came up high, and there was a 2-boat length gap.
Nice.
Yeah? So hang your boom out, dip down for a second, no room there, then sheet on and come up again. Yeah?
Once again,
so
there's...
it looks like this.
Yeah.
Here I come. I want to go in there, hang your boom out wide, send him down there, then up you go again. Create the gap.
But there's nuance to this too.
You guys get too tech.
So this is about Rule 14 now. This is about acquiring right away. So as much as you acquire right away from port to starboard or rounding a mark, you also require right away from clear astern, right? So the rules which state room and opportunity for the boat to keep clear, and I'll throw this one out into the ridiculous. So you've got a boat here that's doing 10 knots, and you've got a boat here doing 20 knots, right? It's not reasonable for this guy to come in at double this boat's speed and go, when would boat keep clear, and not give that guy room and opportunity to keep clear. You also can't drive that boat into the start boat, right? Once you get inside the barging buoy here, right, the buoy they stream off the back of the boat, you really can't drive that guy into the start boat. He's acquired his position, he's entitled to his position, and you cannot drive him into the start boat. So acquiring right of way has obligations, and your obligations, room and opportunity.
So here's a starboard boat, and another board comes in this close. That's pretty cheeky, because when this guy tries to avoid, what happens to his transom? So that's half a metre. It's probably not enough room and opportunity. We determined in teams racing in paces, which are about the same length as a windsurfer, and the umpires were really, really hard to get them to pin this down. They said it depends. But about a metre between here and here is fair, because this boat can do that. If you come in and leave 6 inches, this boat turns upwind, transom moves out, yeah? So it's like, bang. That wasn't room and opportunity. You can call that. So leave a metre at least, maybe more.
So we get penalised on the start line for that then?
Well,
You only
Oh,
get
that's
penalised if you get protested. So this is a self-governing sport, right?
yes.
You're expected to know the rules, you're expected to sail fairly, and you're expected to, if someone breaches the rules, to call them up on it. And that means that if someone does something on the race course, there's an expectation that you would say, hey, protest. If you know the rule, fantastic. Or if you know the breach of the rule, more people wouldn't spout a rule number. They'd say windward boat keep clear. They'd say buoy room. They would say port starboard. But if you know the rule, say the rule and hail protest, and that's it. And then come in and fill out a protest form.
So you can't say, you arsehole, keep clear, but you can say starboard tack, keep clear. You can say windward boat, keep clear. And what you want to learn to do is use the terminology for the rule. So it's windward boat, keep clear, starboard, loud and clear, starboard, and then we'll move on to overlap as well.
So,
but yeah, really, there's only a few words you need to use on the race course, and one of them is not. Yeah, I won't, no.
Yeah.
All those other words, you know. But I just want to finish on port starboard, Jace, if I
Yeah.
can. We're just about done on port starboard, because port starboard is number one, or the big one, then windward leeward, and we've done both so far. The only time port starboard changes a little bit is at the top mark. So let's make this top mark. And here's a boat on port and starboard coming into the mark, has found the ley line, is going to make it. And here's someone else coming in on port. I can see Diana smiling, because I'm sure this happened to her. I'm sure this happened to her. This boat is starboard, has right away. This boat is port, needs to give way. And this boat decides, I think I can lee bow her. I think I can tack and fill my mainsail in time. But within 2 boat lengths of the top mark, you can't infringe at all. So you have to actually finish your tack and move forwards. If this boat has to alter course at all, mainsail filled or not, you've infringed. And for that reason, you never go to the port ley line. You always tack earlier and find a gap here. So here you could lee bow, for sure. Bang, I've finished my tack, I'm okay. I've filled my mainsail. But over here you can't do it. Windward marks are protected. If you've made the ley line, 2, 2 or 3.
It's actually three of the first boat that gets in there. So if it's a 12-foot boat and you're a 14-foot
36
board,
foot.
36 feet.
Teams racing is 2,
If it's
so
a
it's 3.
27
Yeah,
foot.
yeah.
Teams racing is with teams racing, you're all in the same boats, right? We sell a lot of mixed fleet stuff, so little boat, big boat, Sharpie. What's a Sharpie? 24 feet? 20 foot?
Yeah, 20.
So it's 60 feet.
So here, if you're going to come in here and get in on that boat, which involves maybe that boat as well, you have to tack and move out of their way completely.
So if they've done that to us though, and there's 3 boat lengths, most of
If I came up here and they tacked in there and you had to avoid, I'd say tacked in my water, penalty, had to avoid. Tacked in my water, penalty, had to avoid.
Or you could just say rule 18.
Tack.
So this is a windward mark, right? And the
Yeah.
rule 18.
Oh,
is what
it
Brett's
does, it's
talking
rule
about.
18.
Brett
Yeah.
was talking about rule 18 at the top mark, and there's about 5 or 6 parts to rule 18.
I'm old school. I use the name of the rules.
Says you shouldn't be coming out on port that close to the buoy.
Well, unless there's big gaps.
This is the port line.
If there's big gaps, you can do it. If there's no big gaps, wow. Fred, have you been in the Netchels, Nationals or Worlds or something, and you come up on that port ley line and there's 25 etchels on starboard? And what do? You end up having to go all the way back here in dirty air. It's a waste of time. You should have come back out here and tacked. So they say never go to the ley line. Tack up and get close and then work your way through. Okay, so port starboard, we start on starboard because we got right away. If you're going to do a port hand start, very risky. Up the windward leg, port starboard's pretty straightforward. At the windward mark, really protected. Starboard tack is really protected. The only other one on port starboard I want to talk about is straight downwind. Oh, we've done it, kind of. Sailing downwind, you're on a run, you're talking to your mate over there, you're going straight downwind. Which side's my boom on, which side's his boom on? Am I on port or starboard? Right hand forward, I'm on starboard. Jace is next to me there. He's on port, I got right away. Starboard, Jace, starboard. He jibes. Now we're both on starboard.
I'm with
windward boat, keep clear, please. Okay.
But if he's dead downwind, oh, you were saying you've moved a little bit to the right of the
Oh, I just moved over on starboard.
I'm on port, he's on starboard.
If I drive to port, he's going to come over on port and take me up, but then I drive back to starboard. Sorry, back on starboard, Jace.
Correct,
Yeah? Common tactic, you got the boom out here, so you're sailing downwind. I better draw it, really. You're sailing downwind like this. Boom on starboard, I'm on port. Boom on port, this guy's on starboard. I'm sailing on port, this guy's on starboard. Yeah? Just jibe. Now I'm on starboard, now they're windward boat. Even though I'm going straight downwind, my boom's there, their boom's there, we're both on the same tack. Rule, the second rule, or whatever number it is, comes into play, windward boat.
So, Peter, is that
Andrew?
effective immediately? Effective immediately. If I put on from port to starboard, is that effective immediately?
If you're that close together, you would be deemed to have jibed so suddenly and hit him that you didn't give him an opportunity. So once again, over here, if I jibe and say starboard, Jace, I'm good. Over here, bang,
Rule 15, acquiring right away.
no room and opportunity.
Is the government.
Oh, I could go all day. Andrew, did you have a question again? Yeah.
I'm laying behind the fleet, so I'm still going towards you with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stacking boats coming downwind on the boat.
Hang on.
Yeah, you want to draw it?
No, you draw. I'll just clean this up.
Okay, you take this and I'll draw it. Yeah, you're good. Yeah, you hold the mic and I'll draw it. You're coming downwind?
No, I'm going upwind.
So,
You're going upwind?
I haven't got there yet. Half the fleet's already come around the top now.
okay, yeah,
There's a
Okay.
combo line going down.
Yes.
And you're still.
yes,
Jason, they're on opposite.
Yeah.
The guys coming downwinds are on all tack.
okay. So,
Starboard, port,
yeah. So this would actually be the top mark. Have to be further up the course, Beto. So top marks up there.
Yeah.
Get rid of that one. So
There you go.
you're sailing up the work, right? They've come round. They're either on port or starboard, right? So this is boats. Well, they're windward boat, but before windward boat, it's opposite tacks. So precedence is always port and starboard.
So,
Right.
So let's ask a question here, guys. Who can just hold their course and yell and keep sailing? Yell start. No. Which boat?
So the only guy that's got
Starboard tack. Everyone else is to windward.
yeah.
So
he's-
this guy's
yeah,
a windward boat. This guy's a port tack. This guy's a port tack.
yeah.
So if you see a crowd coming downwind on top of you and you're worried about it, maybe get on to starboard tack.
How about these two?
Yeah, draw it up.
How about this guy? This guy. and
He's
this
got
guy.
right over there. That guy.
Windward boat, keep clear.
So this is
Starboard has right away. Of
this is the port hand boat
Windward boat.
going to windward. That's a port hand boat going downwind. He is his windward boat, right? So this is on the same tack. Windward boat keeps clear, right? So
Windward boat keeps clear on the same tack.
yeah, but this guy here is trumped by port and starboard, right? So these two boats here, same tack and overlapped, or same tack, windward boat keeps clear, right? So windward boat's got to keep clear.
He's a
His-
windward boat on him, so he's got to keep clear of that. And this is starboard boat. He needs to go that way.
This guy here,
No choice.
this guy here is the priority boat to that boat. He's not the priority boat to that boat because
this
that
boat.
boat there is on starboard, he's on port.
Really got to have your wits about you looking at when the guys are coming down through the paddock. Absolutely. Their port stuff.
And just yes, Simon.
And the problem comes in with keelboats when they've got a spinnaker up. You can't actually see what tack they're on. So get onto starboard because they're either a port boat or a windward boat.
Saying sportsmanship-wise, the boats coming downwind have usually more room to manoeuvre and have less to gain from interfering with a boat going upwind.
Yeah.
So, courtesy-wise, I would be keeping clear of a boat to windward.
So
We're just going by the law of averages there, Simon. We've got two boats going up and one on port, one on starboard. Two boats coming downwind, one on port, one on starboard. Who's got all the rights?
Guy going upwind on
Yeah. So generally, the boats coming downwind are going to give way. So yes. But if if you're on the same tack, if you're on opposite tacks, you'll go. So occasionally, a boat coming downwind on starboard while you're on port will cause you to have to give way. That's the one you want to look out for. Really important to look out for that. So if you're coming upwind on port and there's a fleet coming down on starboard, half of them are on port, half of them on starboard, you want to be really aware of it. You either get way out of the way or tack on the starboard. I would just tack away and get clean air anyway. Wouldn't you? Tack away and get clean air. And that's part of racing tactics, is like, you know, when you're going to the top mark and you're coming up here and the leaders are going around here like this, are you going to go here and tack there? Or are you going to go straight out to the starboard ley line, because you'll then have right away, and let them all come down here? Or if someone's in your way, you tack and go out here. But tacking up the middle and letting them come down, you look ahead and you see them coming, even before they get to the mark. You go, oh, I'm getting out of that now. I'm going to just get down here.
But usually when you're on port tack, heading out, and the faster boats have already gone round, and you've got to get through them at some point.
Yeah, so this goes back to the zone, right? Now,
Keep going.
in the zone, right, this is why we say don't go inside the zone. Because if you sail outside of the zone, right, on port tack, this won't happen, right? Unless there's a massive wind shift, right? Okay? So the zone is the top, the windward mark. Around the windward mark, three boat lengths. So that's why we're saying don't come in here, right? We're saying come in here, because
But us tailors still often have to get through all the boats coming down.
yeah, but that's what we're trying to tell you is don't come in here, because that's when it's going to happen, right? If you come in down here, there's less chance of you being in the zone, right? And there's less chance of them running down. So it's about crafting your race around other things, right? So looking ahead, bit of preempting. Yeah, but this guy here has got absolutely no obligation to these two boats. And if that was me, I would not give you an inch or a mile, especially if you're there, because you shouldn't be there. You should not be there. If you're there, I'm not going to be happy that you're there, because you shouldn't be there, right? But there's nothing wrong with you, you know, like maybe there's a massive tide running, and you want to be, you know, like right up on the mark, because you want to keep this tack back here as short as possible. There's nothing wrong with you doing that, right? Nothing wrong. If you give... So, you know, yeah, like when we got that massive tide coming in, yeah, and you'll sort of like overstand that mark, because you want to keep that that starboard tack back to it as short as possible. You can do that, and it's a great thing to do. But just if you're going to come in up here, just be prepared to do that, right? Because that's what the rule tells you to do, right? The rule doesn't tell you to bang the top mark on port tack. It says stay outside of it, right? That's what the rules say.
So I've got a question for all of you. When you're sailing upwind, and there's boats coming close to you, can you immediately, without having to think about it, know if you're on port or starboard? That's the first thing you're going to be able to do, straight away. I do it without even thinking. If I'm at Brighton Seacliff Yacht Club, if you're on a sou'wester heading out to sea, you're on port. If you're heading along the shore, you're on starboard. When you're going upwind, another boat just appears out of nowhere. I'm port, he's starboard, I gotta get out of here. I'm port, oh, he's windward boat, I've got right away. You gotta think quickly. So all the time that you're sailing, am I on port or am I on starboard? The second one is, am I the windward boat or the leeward boat? Well, that's easy. Who's closest to the wind? But if you're on opposite tacks, you lose. So you just got to know what tack you're on all the time.
So
port, starboard.
it's a great question.
Then it's windward, leeward.
And for me, I'm very dyslexic, so and part of being dyslexic is a wonderful thing. If you haven't been dyslexic, I suggest you go out and get a dose. It's fantastic. For me, my watch, right, is on my left hand. If my left hand is back and my right hand is forward, I'm on starboard tack, right? So I
Richard, how do you know what tack you're
I
on?
do not need to think about it.
Do you have a system?
No, I just know my left hand, I'm left-handed.
Yep.
Left hand forward,
Yep.
port tack.
Yep.
So left hand forward, port tack. Right hand forward, starboard tack.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with that, but I haven't been looking at the other boats coming down to look at which side
Yeah.
the clouds are. I need to do that.
Ah,
Yes.
well, you can't see their hands, so it's where is their boom?
Boom.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
need to look at
If
their
their boom's out to the starboard side of their vessel, they're on port.
from now on.
Yeah.
Now, I've got a question about running downwind, dead downwind.
Yep.
And if you're a little bit ahead of the boat behind,
Yes.
Feeding
Stop
us
right there. Stop
Feeding
right
us
there.
onto the next rule.
So this is on the same tack. This is rule 12. On the same tack, not overlapped. And I'm going to throw it over to Bretto to explain this
sure.
one.
So you can get caught up in the definitions because race officers and rule riders try to make the rules harder to understand. So windward, leeward, we've discussed it at length, haven't we? Windward boat keeps clear. The rule is actually called boats on the same tack overlapped. Yeah? So if you're on the same tack overlapped, the windward boat keeps clear. I just call it windward boat keeps clear. But the next rule is, Anthea, boats on the same tack not overlapped. And the rule there is overtaking boat keeps clear.
but can the bottom one, if you're the front boat, you've got somebody behind you, can you sail wherever you like?
Yes. Yeah, right away. You can do whatever you want. You can go high, you can go low,
You don't have
you can
to
jump.
worry about them.
No, they're not allowed to hit from you
And
behind.
if they're a bigger boat coming down on you, you can still sail across in front of them.
If you're on the same tack,
You
yes.
give them enough room to.
If you're on opposite tacks, be careful, because that's when the rules, and we're not going to go that deep. If the boat on starboard rams you from behind while you're on port, there is a school of thought that says they're on starboard. And if you go to the International Rules Tribunal in an Etchells well, and it's just boats everywhere, and a boat hits another boat from behind, most people would say overtaking boats should have kept clear, but they had nowhere to go. If they're on starboard and you're on port, you probably get pinged. But keep it simple. At our level, overtaking boat keeps clear. Don't hit something from behind. It's just not kosher. It's not the rule that we don't want to go port starboard on a dead run. We want to go fair sailing on a dead run. Yeah? Fair sailing on a dead run, never hit someone directly from behind. I want to leave that one at that, Jason, if that's all right.
Bretto, just draw a bit of a picture here. Boat 1, not overlapped.
Correct?
Boat 2 overlapped. Right. Boat 3 has no obligations to boat 1. Right.
Yep.
Boat 2 has acquired right of way, and we have to go back to the rule 14, which is acquiring right of way, and the obligations you have under rule 14. So this guy has become what we call a priority boat, and this is a keep clear boat now, right? The priority boat cannot enforce his rights until he's given this guy room and opportunity, right? So once again, back to the fair sailing thing. You just can't, flash in at twice the pace of this guy here and bash him up because you feel like doing it. And this rule here, right? This acquiring right away. It's very detailed in the coming from clear astern. Right, it's a downwind rule, right? Your obligations coming from more than 5 boat lengths clear astern are quite different, right? Quite different to me and Bretto going around the top mark together, him half a boat length behind me, and overtaking me, to him being 6 boat lengths behind me and going past me like I'm standing still. quite different. A lot of nuance in that one, okay?
What are we on to?
Brett,
We can do rule 18 in a moment. I want to wrap a few things up before we do 18.
on the same tack, not overlapped, which is a little bit about this one here.
Yeah, we do. I think we've done
So
it. Not, on the
that's
same
well.
tack, not overlapped, is overtaking boat, keep clear.
That's kind of that one there, right? On the same tack, not overlapped.
Yeah,
That's what that one there is doing.
yeah.
That's rule
Not
2.
overlapped, overtaking boat, keep clear. Windward boat, keep clear, because they are overlapped.
Yeah, and rule
Yeah.
14, Brado, this is about avoiding contact, so
You
rather
do that
than
one.
smash into
That's
each
back
other.
to you, mate.
Thanks, Brado.
I'll do 8. I'll start 8 and you finish it.
Rule 14 is about a boat that has priority, right? And it's about a boat that doesn't, right? So the general rule is, and this sort of plays out more in port starboards than anything else, and I'm talking about windward port starboards, but sometimes windward boat, so same tack overlapped, right? The boat that's required to keep clear and the boat that has priority needs to do everything that is reasonable to avoid hitting each other, right? And this is something that the rules are kind of written around one design class racing, but they also do deal with different people on the race course, right? So they don't always just accept that everyone's going to go the same pace or the same angle through the water. So avoiding contact is something you should do at pretty much as you can.
I've got one really cool example for that, which I think is really simple. And I think it's probably the one that might help you guys the most. So boat 3 here is on starboard. Boat 2 is on port. I'd like a couple of volunteers to be in these 2 boats. Anyone? Anyone? Who's on starboard? Who's on port? Diana, you on port? Diana's on port. Give me that for a minute. This Diana here. Port tack. You don't need to come up. It's all right. I'm just going to talk. I'm just going to talk about you. And who's going to be on starboard tack trying to cross Diana? Come on, hands up. Praddy. Praddy's on starboard. So Praddy's coming through on starboard. Diana's on port. We're looking through our window, under our boom, around the front of our boom. And do you think there's a risk of collision? Yes. Okay. Who is the priority boat? Okay, starboard tack. So priority boat here. Give way boat here. Okay. The rule that Jason's just explaining is, as Diana tries to sneak through, Praddy is not entitled to T-bone her. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Why not? Avoid collisions at all costs. Fair sailing. Praddy and Diana are mates, supposedly. So yes, we've determined we're on starboard. We're going fast. We know we've got right away. Diana's sort of tried to think about getting through. She thought she was going to get through, then she's not. At the last minute, Praddy, what should he do? Avoid collisions, luff up, a bit of a kiss, everyone falls in, and Praddy hails starboard penalty had to avoid. Praddy gets up and sails off, Diana gets up and does a 360. Don't T-bone anyone, never. Okay, that's the simplest version of the rule Jason just explained. Do not ram someone. Otherwise, Diana gets up and says, fair sailing, penalty, and you have to do a penalty as well, and then it'll go to the protest room at Nationals. Tim?
So reverse it again. So
Yeah?
Praddy and Diana coming into each other. Diana's miscalculated.
Yeah?
Didn't take it on. Take off. Didn't quite get behind and just maybe just hit the bow.
Tried to go behind?
Just hit the bow and hit the stern of the boat. What should she do?
Praddy calls. Praddy goes, it's all right, Diana. Keep going. Or Praddy calls penalty.
So what we should, in real sailing terms, just again,
Probably just let it go.
class, we're really good
Let it go.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for. Like,
Correct.
Do a 360 class, a windsurfer class, racing, but
She did everything she could. And the worst case, Praddy gets nudged around, picks up his speed, and then comes back on the wind. She did the very best she can. And then you get the next scenario, which is, where's Praddy? Praddy's over here. And Diana's coming through, and Piana's nearly through. And Praddy goes, keep going, keep going, keep going, and calls her through. You can do that. Praddy just eases his sheet for a moment, lets her go, and then zips in behind and goes fast to the left-hand side of the course, which is, by the way, favoured. Don't tell everyone that. Yeah?
Yeah, so,
I think
That can happen too. But
that's a
it's
great,
avoid collisions at all costs, isn't it?
that's a great commentary from you guys here tonight is coming into the Worlds next year, like, if anyone collides with somebody, guarantee there will be people be calling it. So if you feel like you're in the wrong, or you feel like you're about to touch somebody, do your penalty. Like when you watch the Sydney Hobart.
100% sail
Do
clean.
your penalty, do it as soon as you possibly can.
Absolutely.
Get it done, and then keep sailing, and I guarantee you'll be in a better position thereafter. That's probably the way to look at it.
Sydney Hobart Yacht Race last year, was it, you know the boats, Channel 7 boat, Oates,
I think you're talking about
tacked in the water of Comanche
Yeah.
and didn't finish their tack or whatever, I don't know, and then they had to avoid. Penalty, 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 they just kept sailing. All the way to Hobart, protest, lost the race. They should have done a penalty and probably would have still won the race.
And we,
Do your penalty.
We're a great team here, we're a great class.
Do the penalty.
We're a better team here, and we all respect each other, but when it comes to nationals, the world, you've got to respect that and just do your turn.
So what do you say if you're going to take a penalty?
Do a 360.
Just raise your hand and go, taking it,
Yep.
loud and clear, taking it, and just, even if you do it with the rope, just going around, you have to do a penalty, you have to do a tack and a jibe in quick succession, or a jibe and a tack.
But not in Windsurfer Class rules.
Oh, sorry,
So
didn't know that.
in Windsurfer Class rules are penalties, just a 360 turn. So if I'm, if you were sailing, yes you can. Yes you can. If that's what you want to do, you can do that.
The ball goes around.
Yeah.
Technically it's a tack and a jibe, but
So in the
360
in the
degrees
sailing
all about.
rules, in the sailing rules,
tack and a jibe.
it's a tack and a jibe. But in windsurfing, it's the rotation of the board through 360 degrees. Doing a penalty on a windsurfer is so quick. I did 3 penalties in the 2020 Nationals in one race. I had a bad race, but I bumped and a few people. I actually got a penalty while taking a penalty, which is more to the point of sail clear.
You didn't go clear to take
Yeah,
the
I
penalty.
didn't sail far enough away to take the penalty, and I interrupted somebody else, and so I did another one.
You need to keep sailing down the red. I'm going to take it, I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
So you got to take it as soon as you possibly can.
Yeah, within
In teams racing, if you don't take your penalty, like if you don't self-adjudicate and say I'm taking it, within about 10 seconds, maybe less, the umpire boat will come in and ping you and you do 2 turns. If you take it off your own bat, you do 1 turn, but if you have to be pinged by the umpire because you were on the wrong and you didn't take it, you do 2 turns. So that's the encouragement that they give to self-adjudication.
but also be mindful. Teams racing 6 boats or 8 boats on the course.
Yeah, six boats.
So in a 6-boat
Lots of
fleet,
boats interacting.
the expectation is you can get clear like that, right? In teams racing.
Correct.
In R racing, to sail clear of the fleet, it may take a bit longer. And remember, you've got all the people coming down behind you. So sailing clear. You want 5?
Right. We're going to try and wrap this up in about 5 minutes. So we're going to do a little bit on Rule 18. Let Jace prepare for Rule 18 in his mind and with his diagrams. Is there any more questions on support starters? especially at the top mark. Right? We've got upwind and at the top mark it's a bit different. Within 2 boat lengths, really be careful if you're on port and you're taking someone's way, you're gone. Okay? Windward leeward. If you're the windward boat, you keep clear of the boats to leeward of you when you're overlapped, especially on the start line, because if Tim Laird's coming right close to the boat, Freddie's behind him, and Jason's there, and Andrew Ward's there, and Flacky's over here. Brady can't sneak in there, and Flacky definitely can't charge in there. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, you can.
Don't show this to Flacky.
It's on video.
No, he stopped doing it, but he did do it a couple of times.
I think,
Freddie was, yeah.
You won.
So windward leeward and start line.
I reckon Brett Chase, like, it's a good thing, good commodity that we have here. But again, I think the best way for us to learn,
You just come up in front of that.
Yeah, bring Timmy up.
Actually, is like, let's start challenging each other, not because we disrespect each other, like, if someone's done something wrong, call them out. Like, and down in just had a good conversation I had at Bowen, where one of the competitors who knows what he's doing did something wrong. We talked about it after. We said, no, he's in the wrong. I knew he'd done it. Diana didn't know. I didn't know he knew, but he didn't call it. No. So it's about calling each other
And
out.
if he
We're all
yelled
friends
stuff
around this
out,
party. We're all
if he
friends.
yelled stuff that you didn't know, he's basically like you just.
We all learn.
And there's,
I still firmly believe, and I say it to my teens racing kids, best thing you can do on the course with rules is know your terminology. Starboard, everyone knows that one. Yell it out loud. Windward boat, keep clear. Okay. The next one's no overlap, which we're about to do. Windward boat, keep clear. Had to avoid. Penalty, had to avoid. That's a biggie. Penalty, had to avoid. The starboard tack, penalty, had to avoid. Windward boat, was off.
Just one question. If you're heading up to the windward mark and you're both on port tack, is there a responsibility of the boat who wants to tack to give this boat a bit of, because you can cut right in front of them,
I
either,
can see what you're doing against it. Two boats on port tack.
yeah, and
You
this one
cannot-
wants to tack
You cannot tack into
Until-
a port boat because you're tacking in their water.
so how
You've
far,
gotta give that
how
one-
much, you've got to give them a couple of board lengths or
You've gotta-
whatever room.
Well, you've got to complete your tack.
Yeah,
You've got to fill your main stuff.
yeah.
And that's very, very tricky because how much room do you have to give them to complete your tack? And my general rule is I'm blasting out from the top mark and I look behind and Jason's behind me by about 2 boat lengths and I think if I tack here, he's going to hit me. But I think I can tack and fill my main. If I can tack and fill my main, I'm in the right, he's on port. What am I going to do? I'm going to go back and I'm going to tack, and I'm telling him I'm going to tack.
Yeah.
And I've warned him. And Jason might say, go ahead, tack, and just bear behind me. Or he might say, no room to tack. And then, well, you know, see what happens. There's no exactness to some of this. But yeah, if I was 4 boat lengths ahead of Jason and I thought I was going to impede him, I was going to tack, and I think I'm going to get that tack under and really easy. I still yell out and say, tacking, and just go through and tack, shoot my main. At least I've given him a little warning. But yeah, you can't tack in his water. If you're that close, if I can just draw it, if it's like that, or like that even, and you tack, you've basically tacked in his water. See, this is why I go back to all the basic descriptions of the rules. You can't tack in someone's water.
and you've got to give them room and opportunity. And acquiring right away. So acquiring right away.
Are you going to talk? Grab that.
Oh, sorry.
And we'll do row
So
later.
what can the boat, the windsurfer that's at the back, what can they shout out?
So this is the.
Oh no, if you're the boat at the back, you're on port tack and you're watching the boat on starboard, you're going like, he might tack, he might tack, he might tack, I've got to be ready, I've got to be ready. If he tacks, I'm going to tack, I won't make it. And start making decisions really early, like maybe I should drop behind him or maybe I'll
Or
tack.
pinch.
Maybe I'll pinch.
Pinch.
Maybe I'll tack early and
Right.
go left and right.
Yeah. So
But
if
don't just sit there and
yeah.
get sucked into it.
So
You can't go around if he infringes you.
if this
He can
is
complete his tack.
your situation, what you want to do is you want to pinch up, right? Pinch up, create a little bit of space so that when he does tack, right, you've got room to sail up here and tack clear. Remember, he has to get right of way. He has to acquire right of way. Rule 15 says acquiring right of way. So he tacks while he's passing head to wind, he has no rights, right? So he's all the time he's passing head to wind, he has no rights, right? When he becomes the starboard hand boat and he's acquired right of way, he has to give you room and opportunity to keep clear, right? So the reality is, if you're this guy here and you're really this close, right, you're just going to push. Well, no, this is because this is more tactics than rules, but you're just going to push until he starts to attack, and then you say room and opportunity, which he'll balk at, right? But well, room and opportunity. What do you mean?
Chase,
Yeah.
if I yell out to you, I'm tacking, I've given you room and opportunity.
No, but you have to acquire rule 15, brother. You've got to acquire right of way. So there is no presumption.
We need a protest community.
So the only time what Brett's talking about actually applies, no, it's an obstruction.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So this is like when you hear people call water, right? So this is about you know, I'm sailing, you know, at Seacliff along the beach like this, and you're there, and I'm going to hit the beach, and I've got a right for water, right?
Call for obstruction.
So I say water. Now, what you can do is you can say you tack. So that means I call water, and then once you say you tack, I must tack. If I don't do that,
They have to avoid you.
yeah, but you have to keep clear of me. Now, there's a lot of times when calling you tack is the better thing to do than just tacking, right? And I can explain that to you at the back end, because that's tactics, right? And we're talking about rules. So, yeah. But this guy actually has to get on starboard tack before he has right of way. Until he has right of way, he cannot ask for you to keep clear, right? So that's the key there. So if you're thinking you're real tight on the ley line, right, just push it. And this guy here, if he's smart, he's going to give himself a boat or two, at least a boat or two, because when he tacks, he's going to tack up here, you're going to be down there, and he's going to roll you on that run in. So and that's tactics again. That's about don't worry about the battle, win the war, right? Okay. Yeah. And there are layers to that. And
I mean, like really simply, if you're sailing upwind to the top mark, you should know what's happening. Am I on starboard? All those boats underneath me or coming across have to give way to me. But I'll yell out starboard and make sure they get a warning. But if you're on port, all those boats that are coming across on starboard have right of way, and any boat just ahead of me on port, even right up near the top mark, if they've got room to tack, they're immediately on starboard, so you need to be very, very wary. Yeah, so you're always on high alert when you're on port. Always on high alert.
Just checking again. If you do have a collision with another board,
Yeah.
but they go, oh, don't worry about it, you don't have to do the penalty.
well, no. So
No.
yes, you do, because I can protest you. So
Someone
let's say
else
you're
could
on Brad
protest.
Bengal, right? And you're winning your division, and I'm second, and I see it. I'm protesting you, and I'm protesting you for not protesting. Okay?
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, yeah, Anthea, at the end of the day, I'm Mr. Simple here, I'll keep it simple. If there's a collision between two boards, someone needs to do a penalty. So if he's 5 boat lengths behind racing and he sees a collision and one of the boards takes the penalty, it's over and done with. Unless he can absolutely prove that it was the wrong person to take it. But someone needs to take a penalty.
If you take
But
two boards at the same time because you push one onto the next one and they both fall in, do you do two penalties?
no, No, you've only infringed once. It's just unfortunate they infringed someone else.
But they may not have to take penalty.
I was at Teams Racing Regatta and there was one boat here trying to go around the bottom mark, another boat here, another boat here, another boat here. 4 boats, all side by side. And they all just converged on the bottom mark and squeezed up till they're all touching. This probably happens in windsurfing, okay? And they all tried to get around the bottom mark and it all turned pear-shaped. And we reckon this boat up here squeezed in and shouldn't have, but the boat on the outside was penalised because that was the easiest one for the umpire to pick on. The boat on the outside was penalised because they were the outside boat, so everyone else had buoy room.
And when the little optic,
We're about to do Rule 18.
like you're overtaking the little optic and they suddenly, because they can tack much quicker than we can, and then like, they haven't given the opportunity, have they?
Correct.
More opportunity.
Correct. 100%. With the Opties, they're more competent at handling their boats than we are at handling our boards.
But they can also spin on a dime.
And that's what
Yeah,
I'm
so
saying.
you got to get a little bit cluey then.
Yeah.
If there's an Opties on port just ahead of you,
No, I was important. They
this
just
is where,
starboard.
yeah, well, I'd be yelling before they tacked. I'd be yelling, you can't tack there, no room and opportunity. You can't tack there.
Oh, I know the boat outside of there
But-
tacked, and so they tacked.
Yeah.
And I was the one that.
This is
Well, at that point in time, when there's 2 Opties out there on your starboard side and you're on port, you should be thinking not, this is a lovely day in the water. It's like, what if they both tack now? I'm stuffed. If they both tack, I'm going to have to tack. And I'm like, I might just tack now and get the hell out of here.
If I can't tack quick enough once they do.
No, you probably should tack before them. Yeah, think forward and think, where's their top mark? Are they going to stay on port forever until I want to tack? Probably not. They're probably going to tack soon. I'm out of here. I'm going on to starboard.
You've got to look at whether you're going faster than
Yeah.
them.
Think
Yeah, so
ahead.
if you're overtaking boat, you've got to keep clear. So you may just be better off
Yeah.
putting off,
That's hard.
putting them on that side of you, and going through the rules.
That's hard. Opties is
Yeah, they are hard.
different different classes of boats on the course. There's a whole new hour.
And I don't know what Jason's about to present, but one thing I do want to cover tonight, if you've got time, is when everybody's converging on the bottom mark.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
Rule
that's
18.
what Rule 18
That's what we're about to do.
That is the one thing that comes up all the time.
Well,
5 or 10 guys all.
can we do Rule 18 in 5
Yeah,
minutes?
Just before you do Rule 18, I'm going to do Rule 17, which will take 2 seconds.
You do that.
So
We're going to do Rule 18 in a minute. Rule 17 coming up.
Rule
now.
17, real simple. What Pratty just said was, what happens when we're all coming into a mark, right? All converging on the bottom mark. Well, on the same tack proper course, what this is about is, as you enter a mark and leave a mark, there is a proper course from that mark to the next mark. This can be quite subjective in different boats, right? But if you're sailing in a one design fleet, which I think for the purpose of this discussion, moving into Rule 18, let's just all the same assume that we've all got the same proper course, right? If I come around and I've got a boat to windward of me and I want to do that, that could be hard to argue that that's my proper course. But I can also argue that that's my proper course because I was stoving off and back. So very subjective, but the general requirement is you come around the mark and you go to the next one.
I'm talking about before you even get to the mark, there's a whole lot of boats.
Yeah, yeah, yep,
All angles.
yes, yep.
mark.
So,
Boat lengths, 3 boat lengths.
yep.
Chaos.
So,
Yeah, I'll do it.
so this one here, I got that set up for you. That's the top mark, that's the wing mark, that's the bottom mark.
Oh, yeah, got it.
So with that one there, there's a raft of rules that come in here. Now, if it's a windsurfer race, there is no zone, so we just have to be mindful of that. If we're sailing here, we have to respect the zone. And this zone is almost to scale here, right?
1, 2, 3.
So, Bretto, Rule 18, let it rip.
I'm going to go really simple on Rule 18. Pratty's asked a question about the bottom mark. It's the bottom mark. Okay, so we're going to go the bottom mark. So let's just come down to this one here. Yeah?
Do your ley lines.
Sausage courses
Wind's coming down this way. I'm going to have a wind straight down the page. No, I'll go this one. Yeah, so I'll just come back to that one. So we're coming down to the bottom mark. There it is there.
Yep.
Maybe it's a gate, but it doesn't matter. If you're all converging on this one and you want to go this side, it's fine. The gate's a different bottom mark. It's just two bottom marks really, isn't it? So it doesn't matter. So we could do it over here, but we're going this way around that mark. Okay, so this boat's coming down like this. Okay, and we're all converging on the bottom mark. The first thing you want to consider is, are you on port or starboard? Yeah. Port boat. Starboard boat. Another starboard boat. Starboard's got right away, but this is the windward boat. Windward boat keeps clear.
2, 3.
Port boat's got no rights here because opposite tacks on both of them. So coming down to that bottom mark there, the black boat definitely is in the wrong. However, this is where I get a little bit lost in it, but this is the big thing about Rule 18. When you get to the zone, and windsurfing there isn't a zone, but it's just rule of thumb, if you have an overlap over a boat and you're on the inside, you need to be given room to get through. So black boat has an overlap on yellow boat. So has rights to go around.
So this is port starboard here. Right, that's port and starboard there. This is windward boat here.
But when you go into the zone,
We're overlapped here. When we get these guys down to here, right,
Rule 18.
He's now got the
Inside
right
overlap.
to be given room to round. Well, no, when he gets down to here, he's got right. He's got right. Yeah, so
Gracias.
a port boat,
Yes.
a port boat who is in front of that boat, right? Even though they're overlapped, he's entered the zone before that boat, and he has rights to round. Okay?
So as soon as he enters the zone, he gets rights, whether port or stuff.
But you said
Yeah.
because he's in front, what if he's slightly behind?
Well, if there's no, so basically, if we move him back to here, he's not overlapped.
A little bit further. A little bit further.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
So if he's there,
No overlap.
he's not overlapped. So his smart move would be to come across here and, you know.
So it's best to come in on that buoyant stuff.
The simplest way to address this rule is you look across at the board next to you. Are we overlapped? Yes. And you say quite nicely to Jason, I've got an overlap, Jason. I need room.
What about that? That's a port boat there, and that's a starboard boat there. He's into the zone. He's got to give him room to get round.
It's got overlap. Do you have an overlap or don't you have an overlap?
Overlap only any part of the boat.
No, well,
No. So when you enter the zone, it's whoever gets there first, regardless of an overlap.
Yeah, okay, let's say the green boat got there slightly first.
Yeah, well, he's on starboard and he's a green boat and he's in there first.
So
He's
then
got right away.
Now the black boat has no right.
Well, the black boat still has a right to round the mark, just he's not entitled to this. This guy can do that, right?
yeah.
This guy can do that.
But I think the situation Prey's talking about is more like this. Very crowded. Everyone's coming down like that. Yeah, they should all give this guy room. You're all overlapped.
So if
He has the right to go around that mark the way he wants to go around the mark. These guys all have to move over.
And for example,
Always.
the rule states if there's any doubt as to whether that guy has an overlap, it shall be presumed that he does,
Bang.
and room shall be given. Right?
There you go.
Now, I want to just
Yeah,
expand on
okay.
this for 2 seconds. Imagine that is a massive steel pylon, and you're in $1 million, right? Sure, why not? And you're going into the market 25 knots. Do you really not want to give this guy room? Because if you don't, the damage to everybody is going to be catastrophic. Just do that. Do that. You know,
Yeah.
give the guy the room, right?
Yeah, but, you know,
But what about with the
start thinking about it up here.
Are we talking about the bottom up or top up now?
Opties.
And we've got Opties and Windsurfers going, we actually have to give way to the Optie if it's a green one. Is that right?
Well, so let's just move around.
If they're
this
inside,
guy
if they've got
gets to the
inside
zone
overlap.
before you, give them room.
Yeah. But
Right.
if it's a windsurfer, we don't.
No.
Same,
So
same.
if you're
Inside
sailing,
overlap.
If you're sailing at the Nationals, there's no zone, right? There's no zone, so it happens here. In this situation here, green still gives black room.
It's just
Right.
courtesy, common courtesy. You're coming down to a mark. Yeah, like, let's play it out, Jace. Here's the mark. Here's the mark here. Jason and I are coming down with the wind's coming on my back. I'm coming down at this. We're overlapped. I've got an overlap, Jace.
Yep.
Yep. Thank you. I'm going through.
Yep.
Let's do it again.
Yep.
He's come back. This time he's clear ahead. I go, I think I've got an overlap, Jace. He goes, no, you don't. And he goes round in front of me. If there's an overlap, let him through. If there's no overlap, don't. It's that simple. Andrew, do you want to draw it? Can you draw it? No?
And you let
Same
me,
mark?
You let me in. Next leg is a windward leg.
Yeah.
And I come round, because I come in tight, I can't get around that mark tight. And I think it's going down this way and everybody gets carried down.
Yeah.
Am I doing something wrong?
Yep.
So that's a step up.
100%. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so
I can talk about that. if you want.
Coming wide.
So he's trying to turn too tight, not getting it.
I can't get up in the wind because the board doesn't swing up the wind very easy.
You've got to put your centerboard down before you go around the mark. And then rail.
So all those people below me now,
What is that? I don't know if it's appropriate to talk with Jenny Craig rules.
No, we can talk about that.
Do the
So.
He's going to do the Jenny Craig.
Well, no, well, you know that. What the rule about
Wide, coming skinny.
yes, the rule about rounding a mark is it must be done in a seaman-like manner, or sea-person-like manner is probably the right thing to say these days. But I'm not all that PC. So the reality is, you are supposed to come into a mark a little bit like apexing a corner on a car, or taking a corner on a bike, right? You're out wide, and if that's the wind back where Braddo is there, the goal is to be here turning the board, right? And you almost want to touch this side of the mark. You almost want to touch the leeward side of this mark on your way out.
you're being squeezed up all the boats.
Yeah, so
here's
that's
the
tactics
scenario
though, right?
This might help you. We're coming downwind. I'm in boat 2. There's a boat dead ahead of me. There's a boat just over here to the side, and there's another boat coming in. He's got inside overlap. I have to give way to him. He's dead ahead, I can't hit him. He's just a nuisance. And I'm just going to come in here. They're all going to scramble around the mark, and I'm just going to come around behind them and get dirty air. Can you see that scenario playing out? What am I going to do? I jibe out here. Bang, bang, bang. This guy's yelling. These guys all go wide. I've come out here and jibed about there. These guys all have to go around him. And I've started wide. And when these guys end up here, here, and down there, I've come out wide, got my centerboard down now. I've started wide, and I go cranking hard up here like this. And these guys all end up over here. Start wide, coming tight.
That's tactics.
So when you see the shit's going to hit the fan at the mark, go out wide and come in and get settled for your upwind and go tight, hard. Always, always, always. If you're coming in like that, and he's coming in like that,
if you
you're
come
the
in
box
like that,
seat. You're better off.
You
'cause
leave
can get
like-
your centerboard and go
you leave
hard
like
tight.
that.
Yeah.
If
And
you
this
come in-
manoeuvre here is really hard. As you know, you've got to swing it around, get the centerboard down.
Windsurfers don't turn
It's hard work.
So that manoeuvre there, where you come in real tight and you bang it, the centreboard's going to be full blade down, it's reverse rail, spin the thing. But you want to make sure you know how to do that, right? And it's very hard. And if it's more than about probably 8 knots, it's more than likely going to go the wrong way. So, yeah.
Can I sum up Rule 18, which is giving room at marks? It happens a lot on the wing mark because everyone's coming down on the same starboard tack, ready to jibe. So that's rule 18. It happens a lot on the bottom mark. There's a bit of port starboard till you get close to the mark, and then it's like inside overlap. At the top mark, buoy room exists, but not if you're on opposite tacks. So if you're on the same tack approaching the windward mark, there's a bit of buoy room going on. If you're both on port or you're both on starboard, but if you're on opposite tacks, it's port starboard. So normally at the top mark, it's port starboard. Normally. In teams racing, that's a bit different. But in fleet racing, you're either on starboard going fast, you go on port avoiding.
And with windsurfers at the Nationals, no zone. Just check the SIs because they dictate what rules we're playing by. So and that's why we really didn't talk too much about the Windsurfer Class rules. There are some small variations on them, and we didn't go too far into the specifics of the windsurfer rules because they only apply in the windsurfer fleet racing, right? So we can't expect the Optimus sailors or the Sabre sailors to know that we don't have a zone, right? Different set of rules, can't do that.
Just applying
Yeah.
3 boat lengths as a zone.
There's no
Because it
reason
still
not
works
to
anyway.
apply the
Still
zone
works. Still works.
to your sailing,
Still
right?
works.
Tactically, the zone is your best. Is still your best way the best way to use.
Shall we wrap it up?
Yeah.
I'll go first, then you can wrap up the last bit. My wrap up is this.
Just hitting the, okay.
Last question for the night.
You can hit the buoys, the
Yes.
rowing buoys.
Yes.
Yes, the end of the start line or the end of the finish line. Can you hit those flags?
That's marking the course.
You can't hit a start boat,
No.
but you can hit the pin. That'd be my guess. But we might have to check that. We might have to check that. Tim, where's Tim? Tim, can you hit the start pin at world titles? You can't. So you can't hit the start finish marks, but you can hit the marks of the course. There you go. And the finish line. So you don't hit the start and finish marks. Wrapping up.
By rounding marks.
Yeah, rounding marks only. Yeah, Lisa, go.
Also, on the finish lines, it's etiquette not to go back through the finish line
Oh, yeah.
once you're finished.
Yeah, don't go back through the finish line once you're finished. As exhausted as you are, soldier on and peel off to one side or the other. If you drop your rig and need a rest, you don't want to be drifting back through the finish line because it can cause a lot of confusion to the finish people. In my wrap up for the whole session is thank you very much, Jason. That was awesome. I hope you enjoyed it. But if you guys want to talk more about rules, the easiest thing is when you're out racing, all of you, if there's an incident and you want to debrief it, just yell out afterwards over a beer, get the whiteboard, can you debrief this one and just say exactly what happened. We'll just grab the portable whiteboard, the little square one, and sit on the table, and we'll just draw the diagram and say, right, that was port starboard, or that was windward leeward, or that was rule 18, and you should have hailed this. And that will give you a bit of continuous learning. And to Jace for his final wrap-up, I think we should do that.
So what Brett's talking about, if you don't want to go through the hassle of protesting, but you want to get better at it, because it's a whole nother raft of sailing, right? And you learn more through a protest than you'll learn in 10 years of sailing. You can do a thing called mediation, right?
This is off-board. This is a
Yep.
protest
So
after we've come ashore.
so as a class, we could decide we want to protest, but we'll do it through mediation, right? So you still go through the processes that you should. Hail protest, come back in, fill out the form, do the practice, and then rather than going to a formal sit down with other people, couple of people who are from the class or from another class can sit down. You can explain your story, you can explain their story. We can actually tell you where you're stuffing up in your story. We can actually explain to you how you haven't presented your case well, and you can learn from that. And you'd be surprised how many people lose port starboards. Okay? So that's kind of what Brett's talking about. It's a great way to learn. Great, yeah. Just do a 360. Just do a 360. But if you don't, or you're not sure, or they didn't do it, and you don't want to go through the hassle of like the full protest, come and do mediation. It's really easy to do. It's part of the sailing instructions that the club has. It's an option, so you can do that. Sort it out, within 5 minutes. And one thing you definitely cannot do is you can't tell someone they've cheated once you get back onto the shore, right? And you can't disparage their character. Boom, boom. Yeah. So if you don't exercise your rights on the course, don't come back into the bar and think you can exercise them here, because there is no space for that, right? That's a bad thing, right?
If you didn't hail it out there, you have no right to come in and speak about it in this water.
Yeah.
You need to hail it. And
Yeah.
if they don't do a penalty, you've hailed it. And other people would have heard. But I think that's enough. I think we're just going to give a big, quick round of applause to Chase Coonan. Yeah.
Thanks, Bretto.
Thank you all. Thank you, Simon.
Yeah.